Alright guys, such Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy's been talking an awful lot over the last couple of weeks, especially about some of his fellow pro players, calling out Gwinn specifically a couple of weeks ago and saying his efficiency is simply not up to par with some other SMGs, and now doubling down and suggesting that if Gwinn improved in terms of the way that he plays the game, he could be an A or even an S tier player. But right now for the Ravens last year and maybe the year before, and for Cloud9 the World Cup, that was simply not the case. But also revealing the SMGs that Shotzzy does like. HyDra's pretty much the only one that Shotzzy's going to give any credit to. They could have been teammates, but Scump made sure that was not happening. Could it happen in the future? That has been raised as a serious possibility, with Rostermania continuing to go kind of crazy. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always. I greatly appreciate it. Just a couple of roster things. If we do see that Gentlemates team that is currently being rumoured, Envoy coming in with Neptune there as well, and then of course it's going to be Ghosty, and we think Sib rounding out that roster, would be pretty funny to think about, just because we know that there have been beefs in Call of Duty that have been resolved. We know full well that the Drazah Scrap beef is not getting resolved for the sake of them teaming up together. It's just not going to be happening. But it's not impossible to see other beefs, let's say, get resolved. We saw it with Drazah again and aBeZy, right? They weren't exactly on great terms at a time for a couple of different reasons going into the time that they teamed together on FaZe, and it seems to have worked out reasonably well. At least they got a couple of championships in that run of Drazah's run as the CEO of OpTic, when they won, as we know, a couple of world championships. But Neptune, Ghosty, they were getting into it at the World Cup. It was mainly from Ghosty's side. Neptune was maybe popping a snake or two, although he said that he wasn't. The clip seemingly implied that it was probably clean, but Ghosty wasn't very happy about it. Says, you're terrible, you're only good when you're breaking GAs. He was beefing him hard, and we now think they might be on the same team. So that could be kind of exciting to think about. Octane also revealed what he was getting paid back in Modern Warfare 19, and it's funny to look back at that time because that Seattle team was so bad, but they were one of the organizations just throwing around insane money. And to be fair, most organizations that season were throwing around the bag. There was like a salary cap that year of about $1.5 million, something like that. So most of the top players on the teams that had bread were just getting paid, you know, $300K each, basically. It was 5-man teams at that point. So they pretty much were just maxing out the salary cap, and the best players, I guess, would get paid $400, and the weaker players maybe would get paid $200. But wasn't a bad time to be a pro player. But as Octane says, you know, if he could go back, he would have taken a better team at 200K, let's say, rather than a worse team and 400. So it is always an interesting question, because it's been a talking point with Cellium over the last couple of days. If it is true that he had the choice to go to Thieves if he wanted to, but elected not to do so and go to Falcons instead, then, you know, it's a debate, right? Because clearly Thieves are going to be the better team. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. The evidence all points towards it. Maybe a couple of personal things that got in the way as well, but also, you know, money is a concern. And if Falcons are going to offer 3 times as much, is that worth it to take the offer? If they're offering 50% more, is that worth it? If they're offering 2 times more, it's a question. In Octane's opinion, he would rather take half and a better team. Maybe other players disagree with that assessment.
What was your salary? Was it like 20K a month in BO4?
10K. BO4.
Okay.
Yeah, my salary didn't get crazy until on W19.
Yeah, then you got what, 450?
450. My brain surgeon?
You got 450? I mean, Zin's getting 250. Octane surely after.
I mean, I was in the 4s for sure.
God damn.
It was good. It was good cash. It wasn't worth it at all, but it was good cash.
Yeah, this guy's getting paid $400,000.
I would have traded half of that for a better team.
Well,
$400,000 for Sam Octane. I mean, I would pay $400,000 for him.
That was kind of unlucky, because you guys should have technically been good, like, going into the year, and it was just an absolute catastrophe.
I got scumpied, bro. It is what it is. I got dropped by the king, and then fucking he took my team.
But Shotzy's been talking an awful lot, having returned to stream over the last couple of weeks. I thought it was pretty interesting here. We looked back at a play that he made right at the start of the season. Of course, here we are on Vault. Kenny, Pred, Shotzzy, Dashy, that team at the time playing the, of course, Toronto team towards the start of the season. And Shotzy's just kind of saying that at this time, the play that he was making here, trying to hold the cross from the top rather than just playing down on the stairs and being an impossible kill, is the wrong play to make. And over time, he realized that. He figured out he started to play a little bit better. It's kind of funny, right? Because back in January, we remember Shotzzy saying, these terrible teams don't know how to play for the win and all this. But Shotzzy's saying, yeah, well, looking back in hindsight, Obviously, they're a much better team now, and they understand the game much more at the end of the season in July, August, than they did back in January when the game was relatively fresh. So I thought it was interesting to kind of get that insight and a bit of humility maybe from Shotzzy's side to say, yeah, like there were times this season where we didn't really know what we were doing, certainly as well as we did towards the end of the season. And talking of those type of decisions, that's what Shotzzy's referring to as efficiency. He loves this word. He loves talking about efficiency, and it's honestly a great way to look at it, I think, especially from any player's perspective, but what they're doing on the map, how they're utilizing their life, how much are they getting out of each life they put on the map. And Shotzzy says that the majority of SMGs that at least he faces, and he feels this about ARs as well, he even called out Dashy especially, and just said that a few years ago he didn't like playing with Dashy because he didn't feel like his playstyle was efficient, seasons such as Vanguard, for example. And we'll get into the implications of that here in a second with this roster drama, potentially with HyDra. But Shotzzy's talked about a number of players. He even mentioned Snoopy recently and said that Snoopy's good, talented, and when he's frying, he's very impactful. But when Snoopy is going, let's say, 25 in 25, that's not as impactful as a Shotzzy 25 in 25. That's Shotzy's opinion. He might be biased, but it's probably fair. You got to listen to the guy, I think, at this point, after now winning his 3rd ring and his 2nd on back-to-back occasions, and the World Cup on top of that. MVP candidate towards the end of the season, the final couple of events, for sure. They were talking about other SMGs as well. Shotzzy even mentioned specifically that HyDra's pretty much the only sub that he actually rates on a really high level, although he did gas up Neptune a bit and say that he was very impactful and thinks that O4's pretty good as well. And Shotzy's got, obviously, respect for the FaZe guys, I'm sure, and stuff like this as well, and his own teammate in Huke. But Gwynn's an interesting character, right? Because Gwinn was the official CDL Rookie of the Year last season, or whatever you want to say, the season before, Modern Warfare 3, right? The 2024 campaign, Gwinn was Rookie of the Year in Ravens. He had a great year, statistically. Not so good on LAN. This year was in many respects kind of similar, but I think people were kind of expecting him to kick on, right? Like if you look at HyDra, just for example, and to be fair, he's probably not the best example here, but what I'm trying to say is HyDra came in Cold War, was good, for sure he was good, but every year after that, really, he got better. I mean, his peak was probably Modern Warfare 2. Is HyDra any worse now than he was then? Not necessarily, it's just that season he was the absolute mega, carry for that New York roster. But the year after, right, into Vanguard, I think HyDra, I know that team was a bit of a mess, but I think HyDra was better then than he was the year before. And then the year after that, of course, he had the Modern Warfare 2 season. So I think the question is, for some, is that, okay, Rookie of the Year is one thing, but what about your 2nd season, right? How does that go? Because you're expected to level up. This year, was Gwinn any better than he was in his first year? I wouldn't say so. In fact, in many respects, he was probably talked about less, despite the fact that Ravens actually at the start of the year were doing kind of well. So Shotzzy called him out for that pretty much and says, look, the way that you're playing is just not how you're supposed to be playing, and says he could be a far more impactful player than he actually is.
Can't describe it.
Bro, Gwinn, okay.
Gwynn's controversial. Okay, hold on. Gwinn, let's talk about it.
I don't, it's just like, bro, I wish he knew his potential, dude. That's all it is, bro, to be honest. I hate seeing, like...
You're saying kill whore. Well, that's what a lot of people are saying, is that he just kind of focused on kills.
He needs to be efficient, bro. I mean, that's kind of like with a lot of these subs. Like, maybe I'm just way too, like, smart, I guess. I don't fucking know. But, like, I swear the way they play is not, like, how you're supposed to be playing. And what I mean by that is, like, just taking space and, like, just getting info deaths and, like...
It's like there's a certain risk level you have to take.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of these subs just don't have it in them. And I don't know if it's, like, a kill whore thing. I don't know if that's just, like, their natural play style or what, but... Gwinn could actually be potentially in the ANS in my eyes, but...
Well, he could be molded, I feel like. Like, it was his... Like, I feel like he's still young enough to where, like, if he gets the right team and the right people around him, I feel like he can be molded into, like, a way better player. Yeah. But the team just fell off near the end. They made some roster changes that didn't work.
I put him in B.
You think B?
Yeah, like next to Estrell.
Next to Beans.
Like here?
Yeah. Wait, weren't you and Paco almost getting a team window in MW2? Yeah. Like, during the offseason?
That was before. You want to know how it went down?
Yeah.
So after Vanguard, that season was weird as like a team because one, we didn't really feel like a team because of how like it went. Because like,
wait, who was on that team?
Me, Brandon, Inder, and Stump. To be fair, Inder kind of like obviously was that whole thing was unfortunate, but we just didn't feel like a team, right? Like okay, so we would play like on land like a sprint, and like Brandon like he would just like call out or whatever. You know like when people would call out and like it like it sounds like one they're checked or like two like there's something wrong. Or, like, or irritated. Yeah. That's like how it was like whenever we lose maps. So like we would think that like Brandon like just thought we were like well Seth thought he would. Seth thought that Brandon thought he was dog shit. I didn't think that. I was just like Brandon's just being AIDS. Yeah. And I was kind of used to it at that point, I guess. But I just wanted like a new environment. Is the best way to put it. So then when we were thinking about like team changes and shit, the first guy was Paco. We messaged him, we got on Discord. I think everything was gonna be like said and done, and then like Seth saw like what the community was saying like about Brandon, and then like he second guessed it. Like he was like, I don't know if we should do this. And then like
because it was gonna be Cammy too, though, right?
Yeah, Cammy was gonna be like the fourth. That was an option. I don't think we like hit Cammy at that point.
But HyDra was like for sure.
Yeah, but Paco was like the number one, and then like once the news got out, Seth was like second guessing, and then I was like, all right, well listen, if we get Brandon. We gotta run it back within you. It's only right.
HyDra Shotzzy sub duo. That would be crazy, bro.
So Shotzzy talking about the run into Modern Warfare 2. Scump said that he was going to retire after that season. It turned out he retired after a couple of weeks of that season, after things got kind of shambolic for the OpTic team in January that year. He then stepped away. Dashy comes back in. The Rambo drama happens. You guys know the rest. But it was a fascinating off-season after Vanguard because they'd obviously won that year. They'd won at the start of the season with Scump, Shotzzy, Dashy, and aBeZy. They won Major 1. That was Scump's final ever championship, right? And Scump wanted to go out on a good note. So, but he did think, all right, you know what, we'll do one more year. And part of the reason is that FaZe, after that season, FaZe had all their second places that year. They wanted Shotzzy. And Shotzzy was pretty tempted to go to FaZe, understandably. But Scump sticking around convinced Shotzzy to stay. And then I'm sure 1 month later, Shotzzy was thinking, damn, Scump just retired like that. Now I'm stuck here in a shambolic state. Now, I don't think any OpTic fans would change this for the world, right? Looking back in hindsight, yeah, they went through a disastrous couple of seasons. They could have got HyDra right then. They could have got Scrap and HyDra probably last off season. There was talk that Hex wanted that to happen, right? But I don't think any OpTic fan is changing what's happened at all. You know, it's been an absolute roller coaster, but it's worked out for the best for the Green Wall in the end. But could they have made better decisions given the information they had? Yeah, you could argue that things could have been done differently, right? So Shotzzy says that off-season, they were going to get HyDra. The other player rumoured was Cammy. Whether they would have done that, who knows? They could, of course, have brought Dashy back, but there were questions, as Shotzzy implied, on, let's say, Dashy's commitment at that time and him actually becoming the player that he's become today, kind of because Scump retired and all the catalogue of the change of events, let's say, that put into place. But I did find the tweet from Ronnie, right? He actually kept it up. I thought that he deleted it, but fair play, he actually did keep it up. August 18th, 2022, on the run into the Modern Warfare 2 season, multiple sources have confirmed the HyDra to OpTic deal is 95% done, entering into the closing stages. So, you know, people saw this tweet, and obviously people were like, you know, this age like milk and all this. But to be fair, Ronnie was right. It was going to happen. It was 95% done. They were going to do it. And we would have had a Shotzzy HyDra combination. But Scump, as we saw, changed his mind and was like, well, you know, people are going to clown us for dropping Dashy here. To be fair, they could have kept Dashy. I mean, maybe it was Shotzi's fault, right? Because they could have kept Dashy and Scump could have been the flex, which would have been mega to watch, and then HyDra and Shotzzy on the SMGs. But there was a bit of backlash about HyDra at this time, because you guys remember the Vanguard season, there was all that drama with Kremp. HyDra didn't really come off looking especially good out of that drama, I'd say, from certainly some fans' perspectives. So there was a bit of, you know, well, HyDra's talented, but is he a bit of a diva? Like, do we really want him? Like, that was kind of the discussion at the time. And then the idea of dropping Dashy as well kind of made Scump think, well, we can't really do that. And then Shotzzy was like, well, if we are going to bring back Dashy, then we don't want to make a one-man change. It's better just to make a zero-man change and bring back Inda as well. So maybe that was the fault at the end of the day. And maybe they could have had Shotzzy, HyDra, Scump, and Dashy. That could have been a possibility. But yeah, who knows? The reality is that Shotzi's made it pretty clear in the last few days that HyDra's basically the only sub-player that he rates as really highly, right? Because, yeah, HyDra's kills are a lot, and he doesn't do much hill time, but as far as Shotzi's concerned, he's still a particularly efficient player with what he's doing on the map. A Shotzzy HyDra duo at some point would be crazy, but obviously, Huke and Shotzzy is also a great duo as well. So it's just something to keep in mind, because HyDra to OpTic has now been talked about twice. This off-season in 2022 into 2023, and then last year, right, even after winning champs, there were rumours that 23 to the 25 season could have had HyDra and Scrap on the OpTic team, and maybe in hindsight, given what we knew happened at the start of the season, that could have been a good decision. But as we know, as the season went on and the finding of Mason Mercules, the Messiah, it's all worked out rather nicely. So fascinated to hear your thoughts and all that in the comment section below, because like nothing lasts forever. I think there was people that said, including myself to be fair, like the team that won OpTic's champs last year in 2024, the Kenny and Pred team, that that team seemed like, yeah, it might well stick around for a good time, right? Like, that team was maybe not going to be going away. Turned out it was just a few months, and we know the champs curse is a thing. So we'll see what happens to the OpTic team next year. I think this OpTic iteration has a much better chance to stick it out and still be dominant, or at least very impressive next season. But if it isn't, and maybe Thieves aren't going to plan either with Kenny, then maybe there is a future there for HyDra. But of course, Gentlemates also would be very interested in HyDra services. There's, obviously Falcons have a bit of money to spend, so there's lots to think about there. But very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.